Call this meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tonight you get the advantage of a school board meeting and hot yoga, so your taxpayer dollars hard at work this evening. I don't know if that's me or if it's picking it up on something else. Item 3, Superintendent's discussion.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome the people that came out tonight, our community members, for coming this evening. I certainly appreciate you battling the high temperatures, not only inside, but certainly here in the auditorium to join us this evening. I sincerely hope that all of our families and district employees and board members are having a great summer. My wife and I was just talking to Director Burke about this. My wife and I went to San Antonio just a few weeks ago, and it was a great vacation and quite the history lesson. In addition to seeing the Alamo, which, by the way, is smack dab in the middle of downtown, I even got to check out where Teddy Roosevelt recruited and organized the Rough Riders. So that was, we had a great time, and it was a great city. Today's meeting was added to ensure that we have some key positions filled prior to the start of the school year. We have some very strong, high-quality candidates that I'm hopeful will be appointed this evening, and I'm confident that these potential candidates will fully dedicate themselves to our district, thus ensuring a great experience for our students and their families. Also on the agenda tonight is a review of our district bullying policy. PDE Safe Schools Initiative requires that the policy be reviewed officially by the board every 3 years. There are no recommended changes. The policy is to remain as is, but we need to read it into record as being reviewed. The last resolution on the agenda tonight is a recommendation for the approval of a new collective bargaining agreement with the Tunkhannock Area Education Association. I'd like to congratulate both the boards and the association's negotiating teams. Both teams showed professionalism and a willingness to keep an open mind during contract talks. While neither side completely got what they wanted, it was good to see both sides come together on a potential agreement. I'm hopeful that the contract will be approved this evening, and if so, I'll be thrilled to have a new labor agreement in place prior to the start of the school year. I'd also like to congratulate our neighbor, Triton Hose Company, on their recently completed carnival. I know that many of our students and staff attended at least one of the evenings of the very successful event. Of course, our Mr. Boscher was there, as always. Dr. Supan and his wife brought their kids for the rides, and our special ed director, Jeff Craig, and his wife had their 3 children here for the rides and for the parade. And I even think our own Mr. Grabowski, who's sitting back there, I think he made it into the dunk tank on one of the evenings. The Triton Carnival is, yet another example of great family-oriented events that take place here in our community. My last few congratulations tonight go out to a few people that were recently inducted into a local sports hall of fame. The first is Tunkhannock graduate Dr. Pam Yenora Hughes. Pam was a 3-sport standout here at Tunkhannock, and she excelled at volleyball, basketball, and track. I think she still may hold the basketball record for most points scored by a Lady Tiger at 1,360. So she was good. Pam continued her athletic and academic career at Juniata College, where she helped the volleyball team there reach the Final Four on multiple occasions. And she furthered her education by getting a medical degree from the Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine, and then she joined the Army, serving at times in Iraq in an emergency room at a combat support hospital. In 2005, she left the Army and worked in emergency medicine, and she currently lives in Cody, Wyoming, with her husband David and son Brody. Next, our own Dr. Charles Supan was inducted into the Hall of Fame this past Sunday. While in high school at Dallas, he was a standout athlete in football and basketball. How many points did you score in basketball?
Over 1,000.
Not 1,360?
I don't think so.
He continued his football career, accepting a full scholarship to attend James Madison University. While at JMU, he was part of a national championship team, and he even earned All-American honors his senior year. After college, Dr. Supan played in the CFL, and thankfully for us, he decided to hang up the cleats and focus on his education career, and we're very fortunate to have him with us here in Tunkhannock. Tonight I'd like to acknowledge and congratulate our reporter, our favorite reporter, Mr. Bob Baker, who is not here. But Bob was honored by the Hall of Fame Committee, receiving its Media Award. And Bob has either taught journalism or practiced it for 51 years. This is his 19th year at the Wyoming County Press Examiner, and he was honored by the Hall of Fame Committee for his expansive coverage of girls and women's sports, for the coverage of community sports, and for his weekly historical piece entitled Down Sports Memory Lane. On behalf of the entire Tunkhannock Area School Board and myself, I'd like to formally congratulate Dr. Pam Unora-Hughes, Dr. Charles Supan, and Mr. Robert Baker on their outstanding achievements. And I'll ask the board to join me in a round of applause. Finally, this evening, I want everyone to know how diligently my administrative team and I have been working to get our schools ready for this upcoming school year. Believe it or not, this will be our last board meeting prior to the start of the year. I look forward to welcoming back our teachers 2 weeks from today on Monday, August 22nd. And I can't wait to greet our students as they return to classrooms on Wednesday, August 24th. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Superintendent Doherty. Let the record show that the board met in executive session immediately prior to this meeting for personnel matters related to specific employees, legal cases, George Uhas versus TASD 22-19, and George Uhas and Bella Canella versus Tunkhannock Area School District, docket 2022-113. We also met for safety and security matters and collective bargaining strategy. We will be moving into the first public comment period. We'll have 2 public comment periods during tonight's meeting, public comment on agenda items at the beginning of the meeting and public comment on non-agenda items at the end of the meeting. There will be a 4-minute limit per person per public comment period. When it's your turn to speak, please come to the microphone, state your name, municipality, and which agenda items you're speaking about. All speakers must be residents, taxpayers, students, or staff of TASD. If you have an objection under the Title 65, Part 2, Chapter 7 of the Sunshine Act, please go to the mic, state your name, as well as the section and subsection of the chapter you believe is being violated, hence the detail and specificity. The presiding officer and/or district solicitor, we will be deferring to the district solicitor this evening, will make a determination on the stated objection. That determination is final for tonight's purposes. If there are any other questions or comments or clarifications that arise during board deliberation, please hold those until the additional public comment period at the end of the meeting. And with that, we'll open the floor to any public comments on agenda items.
Good evening, board and administration. I'm not sure if everybody knows, but I think if you did, or if somehow it just gets past us, Mr. Gramad, who was obviously a pillar of our community, Mr. Gramad, the Chilson boys' grandfather. So he passed away, and I don't know if you all want to take a minute. I'm sure you guys would have. I literally just got that bling. He was a good member of the society. He was part of our school board, and obviously he was a good leader of his family. He created some great children that wound up marrying some great people who wound up creating some great kids, and they're all part of our community. So if somebody else would take this, I'd be willing, Mr. Doherty, if you could take this for a minute. Now that you know some extra information, you can take this for a minute, give us a moment or something.
Absolutely. I mean, President Arnold, as long as you're okay with it, I'd like to propose we have a moment of silence for Mr. Gramont.
I would say let's do it at the end, if that's okay.
Perfect.
And then,
Thank you.
Then it can be
Very good.
appropriate.
Yeah, that's great. That's
Can
great.
Can I just add something,
Yeah.
piggyback off of George? I think we need to ask, Mr. Gramad sat on the school board for several years. Him and I worked together on the athletic committee. and his wife was also a teacher. She retired from Tunkhannock. Sad news that you're bringing forward to us
Yeah,
today.
yeah, it's terrible, yep. Okay, so if you guys, it's gonna be before you guys bring any of the, it's gonna be regarding my objections last week to that bus contract.
With all due respect, we don't have any minutes on the agenda for tonight, so that would be a non-agenda item.
A non-agenda item, okay, very good. Okay, the only thing I have then is going to be something that I've noticed, and I just want to open up with saying, Mr. Doherty and administration, every time they can fix something administratively using email, they do. Without hesitation, they fix it. If they find themselves that they made an administrative error or a policy error, they quickly change it. And this one here might be beyond them, but when you guys call our meetings work sessions, sometimes the start times were off. They fixed that, so we all know when our start times are, because people do want to come. Everybody's life is busy, so we need everything to be a little bit better. It could help get people here. At minimum, I want to make sure it's set for everybody. So we got a quick call in our work sessions, our school board meetings work sessions, because they are open meetings. This is an open meeting where the public is allowed. So it's an open government meeting, so it's open meetings. That's a definition in the Sunshine Law. So if Mr. Solicitor, right, that's a definition of open meetings? That's what this is. This is an open meeting, right?
Sure.
Okay. And then a work session, public's not allowed. So unfortunately, you all are stuck to statutory laws, rules, and policies that cause us to get into big arguments when you don't follow your own. I really want that fixed, because if we need to do remedy later on, I don't want that stuck over us that somehow we weren't even allowed to be here. So quite frankly, you're just titling it wrong. It's an error. As a school board, when there's an error, own it. If I make an error, anybody wants to tell me I made an error, I'll own it. Mr. Doherty and the administration has been owning theirs, been fixing them. Somebody needs to take a ruling, change the title of our work session school board meeting to an open government meeting. It's an open meeting. That's the definition. One allows the public, one does not allow the public. Okay, so I need you guys to really look hard at fixing it. I don't mind doing all the proper notices, giving you 3 notices, asking for proper remedy, creating all kinds of expenses for the district, or you all just say, hey, arbiter of 9, we made an error, let's fix this. Somebody read about it and fix it, so I don't have to bloviate all the time on these little fixes. And that's all I have for now.
Thank you.
I like the table. Sheila Donnelly, I live in Tunkhannock Township. Good evening, everyone. I have a question on the agenda, new business number 1. And I just was trying to formulate in my mind the difference between, we have a bullying, cyberbullying policy for the students, and then my question was, we have it's titled different for employees. It's called, oh, my phone keeps changing it. It's called harassment, not bullying. So it's just a question in my mind, why is it called bullying and cyberbullying for students, and it's called harassment for the adults? Just a thought. And I know you said there wasn't going to be any changes for that policy, and I did read the policy, so, but it just was a question. Why is it called 2 different things if it's, and then is it the same thing? I don't know. Just because it did mention harassment in the bullying policy.
It's probably just a matter of being the wording that was required to meet the requirements of the state on the bullying and cyberbullying. Is that?
So this has to do with the Safe Schools report?
I'll defer, I believe so.
Yes.
Was that report that was due June 30th?
Yeah.
So we're late on that?
No, that was turned in.
Okay, it's just getting voted on tonight?
This particular piece of the requirement to review is being, approved, reviewed, whatever you want to call it tonight, because there's no changes, so I'm not even sure that we have to take an action on that. It just has to be on our agenda for us to be aware that we have to review it and look at it, and if there are changes necessary, then we'd have to go through actually a policy change
Okay.
agenda item.
I just think if there's bullying in the student policy, the word bullying needs to be consistent with our policies for adults too. Just seems like it should be, just my opinion. And the other thing is there available I'm sorry, I'm reading this, our information from our school about the police responding to, if there was any police reports with regard to this whole thing, the Safe Schools report, and is that going to be posted? Can we get a copy of it? Is it to be made public? I know it's supposed to be posted on the Department of Ed dashboard on November 1st, but if it's reported on June 30th, is there a way to get that before November 1st?
Sheila, keep going. I'm making notes. I'll give you an answer at the end. I don't want to cut into your
I know
time.
you do, okay.
You know.
So I can talk to you about that later then.
I'll answer you as soon as you're done. I just don't want to cut into your time.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, okay.
That was my question.
The Safe Schools website, there is a website just for Safe Schools.
Okay,
Our data gets uploaded every year. I mean, you could go there and look not only for Tunkhannock, but you could look for any school district in the state of Pennsylvania. And it's not, like, I think if we showed you what we uploaded, I don't think it would make, or not just you, but the public, I don't think it would make sense, because we're uploading a data file to it. Your best bet is to go on to that Safe Schools site, and you could see Tunkhannock and
so
compare it to-
our information for this last school year is there already?
It was uploaded. I don't know if the state published it, but it's been uploaded, absolutely. Absolutely. And with this policy, like this review is not holding up a report. This is just every 3 years. The board has to say, yep, it's still good as it is, and then we get to say, yes, it was reviewed and we can move forward. They're like two separate entities.
Okay, so just to clarify, if it's been uploaded, but the state hasn't published it yet?
I don't know. I haven't been on the state's website.
Is there a way for residents to get that information then from the school district, if it's not been published on the Department of Ed dashboard?
I'd have to see what kind of, it's not a secret. I mean, that's all state reportable infractions.
Right. It's the number of times
I'd have to
the
see
police
how we report it. Like,
number of
again,
times the police responded to the school. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah, I'll see if it's up. I have no problem putting that out there, but it has to be in a format that's understandable.
Right. Okay. I'll touch base with you after. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any other public comment on agenda items? Okay, move on to the superintendent's report.
Good evening. I'm going to recommend that a resolution be adopted approving the personnel report as presented.
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckerd?
Yes.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Dr. Pravola?
Yes.
Mr. Widener?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes.
I'm going to recommend a resolution be adopted approving conference attendance as listed. Todd Bosher, Leadership for Learning in the Classroom, $885, and Jeff Craig, Leadership for Learning in the Classroom, $885.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Eckerd?
Yes.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Dr. Pravola?
Yes.
Mr. Widener?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes.
And my last one this evening is to recommend a resolution be adopted approving school bus and van drivers for the 22-23 school year as presented.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel? Yes. Dr. Pervola?
Yes.
Mr. Weidner?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Abstain.
Mrs. Eckerd?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. Committee reports. I don't believe any committees other than the negotiations committee had met during this time. Are there any other committee updates or committee meetings that need to be scheduled? Okay. We have nothing under unfinished business. New business. Just because I wanted to make sure that it got top billing here, I want to jump to number 10 first for approval. That would be recommend that a resolution be adopted approving a collective bargaining agreement between the Tunkhannock Area School District and the Tunkhannock Area Education Association. The term of the contract is September 1st, 2022 through August 31st, 2026. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
If I may, we had over 22 meetings as a negotiation team with the teachers, and it was, as Mr. Doherty said, it was a give and take. I believe we've come to a tentative agreement, and I presented this throughout our multiple executive sessions. Our committee had given the board updates, so we met the other night and we came to a tentative agreement. So we're going to propose voting on this tonight with this resolution.
Any other discussion?
Just want to thank the committee for the hard work on both the labor side as well as our side. So thank you for all that. I think it's great that we have an opportunity to start the year under a contract and not have that hanging over us going into a new school year. So thank you to the teams.
Thank you. If there's no other discussion, can we have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Dr. Pervola?
Yes.
Mr. Weidner?
No.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
No.
Mrs. Eckerd?
Yes.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. Now it's in your hands. You bring us back a yes. All right, item number 1 under new business, the review of the board policy 249. I believe we don't need to take an action on this. It's just there for everybody's review. Is there any discussion on that issue? Okay. Number 2, recommend that a resolution be adopted approving the Guthrie Tunkhannock as the provider of physician services for home football games at a cost of $300 per game.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Dr. Pervola?
Yes.
Mr. Weidner?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckerd?
Yes.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. Item 3, recommend that a resolution be adopted approving an agreement with Specialized Education of PA, also known as Graham Academy, for the 22-23 school year.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Weidner?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckerd?
Yes.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Dr. Pervola?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. Item 4, recommend that a resolution be adopted approving a 5-year agreement for field and student teaching placements with Millersville University.
Motion to approve.
Second. We've got a motion, a second, and a third. Any other discussion?
So, Paul, this is the agreement, I think something was mentioned, that to get the students potentially from our district and then hopefully come back and be teachers in our district down, where we're looking at a shortage of teachers moving forward, correct?
Absolutely.
So
There's
this is
a
only going to
huge-
help the Tunkhannock
Correct. We
district.
want agreements with as many schools as we can to take their student teachers. Because, I mean, it really has not affected us yet, but there's a huge statewide and national shortage in educators. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, this just gives them a student teaching placement and a place to come to get observation hours. This is a win for us.
And to be clear, we are, like when we list a position, depending on the position that we list, we still get a lot of applicants, a healthy amount of applicants for our positions.
Yes, healthy amount. You know, the ones that'll be more difficult will be, you know, when and if we have like biology or high-level math teachers that retire. They're the ones that are historically very difficult. So, you know, the more we get student teachers in our doors, the better it is for us.
Okay, any other discussion? We had a second with motions, right? Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckerd? Yes. Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Dr. Perbola?
Yes.
Mr. Weidner?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. Item 5, recommend that a resolution be adopted approving a 5-year agreement for the placement of ECE students in field experiences with Luzerne County Community College.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Is this the same thing? This is for, I'm trying to understand, this is for the early childhood education folks at LCCC to work in our district?
Oh, that's Mr. Ellsworth to address that. Is that our students?
That's our students going out, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, every
That's-
direction.
Experience, right?
I'm
Oh,
con-
so it's,
It's in-field experience.
oh,
Director Eckert, I'm confident this is our students.
Yeah, that's the way I read it, was that it's our students going out.
Yes, our students are in our state-approved ECE, Early Childhood Education Program.
going to LCC for something?
Correct.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckerd?
Yes.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Dr. Perbola?
Yes.
Mr. Weidner?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. Number 6, recommend that a resolution be adopted approving the application and certification for payment number 1 to TriGuard Security for security improvements in the amount of $44,988.50.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
This is in reference to the security improvements that Mr. Doherty has talked about in the past that
The
were
board,
approved.
passed this project.
Yes.
This is just an application for payment.
Right. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Eckerd?
Yes.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Dr. Perbola?
Yes.
Mr. Weidner?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. Item 7, recommend that a resolution be adopted approving the sale of the school bus en route from Roger D. Purdy to Diane Buranick Busing and Transportation.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Dr. Perbola?
Yes.
Mr. Weidner?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckerd?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. Item 8, recommend that a resolution be adopted approving a settlement agreement for student 013-01130.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Dr. Perbola?
Yes.
Mr. Weidner?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckerd?
Yes.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. Last but not least, item 9, recommend that a resolution be adopted approving the attendance for 2 students, Wyoming County residents who reside 1 mile from the Sullivan County border to attend Sullivan County School for the 22-23 school year.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Doherty, do you want to just say what that is real quick, or?
Absolutely. We have some students very close to the Sullivan County border that if the roads are open, they would, it would be 113 miles one way, 226 a day. In the winter, when certain roads are closed because they don't get serviced, it would be a 266-mile daily trip for students. And this historically, you know, the Tunkhannock Area School Board historically has looked out for those students and allowed them the opportunity to go to Sullivan County.
Yes. So this is something we have approved every year that I've been on the board that I can
Correct.
remember. So, any other discussion?
Correct, and this would bring our total number of students to 5. The cost of transportation would be, so we pay tuition, but the cost of transportation, so we pay approximately, I want to say $85,000 to $90,000 in tuition for those students. The cost of transportation for us would be $81,000 to get these students every day.
Not to mention the amount of time then those students would then be on a
But
bus.
they'd be on 2 hours a day. I'm sorry, 2 hours in the morning,
Yeah.
2 hours at the end of the day, and that's not beneficial.
Right. All right. If there's no other discussion, can we get a roll call, please?
Dr. Perbola?
Yes.
Mr. Weidner?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckerd?
Yes.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. All right, that is the end of our regular agenda. We will now open the floor to additional public comments.
So I'll take advantage of you guys needing a second meeting to let you know I'm giving you your second notice. Last meeting would have been my attempt. I filed my bar grievances and you know there's probably multiples that have went out. And I'm sorry we didn't know about bar grievances to help you reel in our solicitor who we pay for. And just know that they're all withstanding and millions of dollars have been awarded to people all across the state because of some of the stuff that you guys do individually and that the solicitor allows you to do and that he does himself. These are not threats. You keep calling them threats. The only person that's ever been threatened here is me, and I have affidavits, I have videos, I have recordings of it happening to me by people on this school board and the last school board. So I'm the one being threatened. I'm promising you that I will find order with an out-of-order board. And I'm sorry that I don't know everything all the time, and I find things late. But when you find things late, you're allowed to say, point of order, can I read that? Can I read that policy? Can I see that? Because we're all compartmentalized legal beings. We can't know everything. And I don't know everything. You guys know things you know to get us through these meetings that I don't know. But when I find something, at minimum, own it and say, point of order, can we please hear that? Because you're going to find out that possible, this is all about the possible bus contract, a possible resolution. When you have a possible resolution, you don't have a resolution. The reality of it is Mr. Widener told Holly what that resolution was going to be, the 850 to 300. She knew that before the meeting. She could have put it on the agenda and been done. The reason I want this perfected is not to be a nitpicker. You all are about to deal with so much stuff the next 2 years that we're stuck in these ESSER grants and the new grants that are coming, the mental health grants. If you guys can't run a perfect meeting, and they can't be perfect, right? If I was sitting up there, I'd make errors. And when someone brought an error to my attention, I'd want to know more. I wouldn't be trusting a solicitor. He doesn't know constitutional law. He doesn't know it all. He knows what he knows. And if you look to see what that firm, who they represent everybody we have to constantly fight against. We have to constantly fight against the Department of Education, the School Board Association, who constantly try to impose stuff on us that we don't want. That's why we live up here in Wyoming County, and you guys are going to protect us from all the stuff we don't want. So this is my second notice to you guys to make a legal remedy to bring that to order properly. If it does the same thing, it does the same thing. But the reality of it is, it wasn't on the agenda. Word for word, this was Holly's resolution that she created. So the motion is to approve a one-time payment last year to help compensate for the days from last year. One time of $850 per bus, and it was $300 per van. That's verbatim. That could have easily been in the stinking agenda, and this is done. I want you guys running things properly. Like tonight's agenda is recommended resolutions. You can read them. I read them 24 hours in advance, made it easy. I missed that 2 mil tax increase meeting because you didn't have it in the freaking agenda. And I read it twice. I says, no, you go without me. So it was a bait and switch. Your tax one was a bait and switch. You gave a 0 proposal in April. And then all of a sudden, the same night, you didn't even nullify the one that you proposed. You proposed a new one and adopted it the same night, despite the clear reading that you made an error. Say, hey, I made an error. I'm going to fix this as your representative, somebody. The coward thing that I did last week, I still have to stand by because you guys hid behind him. Now, we're going to see what the bar grievances going to him that have standing. We'll see how much he stands up. So you all have to learn how to defend yourselves and defend us as an arbiter of 9. Don't subcontract running our open government meetings to a solicitor. Don't subcontract all of our policy out to a school board association who are not our friends. You guys are going to, I'll promise you this, you will sign away our kids' biometrics and DNA. You will sign it away because you won't do the work. You won't read the 3,000 pages that we've read against BioGateWorks. You guys got to do the work. Please do the work, ask questions, take leadership from Mr. Doherty. When they have an administrative error they make, they correct it. So please correct it. Thank you, guys. Please make sure that's on notice. That was my second legal notice for remedy, to have that done over properly, because it wasn't done properly. And I'll send the third one in the email for clarity for everybody.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Hi, I'm Jennifer Brody, Northmoreland Township. This is more of a request. Can we have like an all-call notice come out before school board meetings? Like with more than 24 hours? Or within the 24 hours notice? Is that possible?
I'll defer to the President Arnold on that.
We can discuss it, but we haven't been, I mean,
I know it hasn't been, that's why I'm asking, can we do it?
typically if we schedule something last minute, I mean, I don't know, isn't there a cost or something associated with using that? I'm not sure. I'm not going to make a decision here on the spot. We can discuss it, but I'll find out what the rest of the board wants to do with that. But it gets a little cumbersome. Most people complain when we start sending out more messages on there. So we'll have we can review it, but we're not going to commit one way or another on the spot.
Okay. Will that be on next board meeting's agenda then? Like, what does that mean, reviewing it?
I'll ask for feedback from the board. They can independently give feedback, and we can make a directive.
Yeah, can it be added to next month's agenda to be?
Well, I'm not going to commit to that either, but your turn is over. Thank you. Yep, you asked. I understand.
Okay. I have another question too. Who does the solicitor actually represent? Like, who does he represent?
The district.
So the actual school district, or like the board? Or
All
like
of the
you
above,
guys
I
as
would say.
individuals?
Well, actually, I'd say finish all your questions and stuff, and then if we can answer some, we will, so that the timing thing doesn't get.
Well, that is my question.
Oh, that's that's it?
Well, I may have follow-up. I was just like, I'm trying to understand, so.
If you want to put your questions in an email, but we're not going to go back and forth about it. Like the district, he's hired to represent the district. That includes the board, that includes administration, that includes, any aspect of the district. Negotiations.
Does that include like citizens as well? Or is it just like you guys as members?
I would say it includes the district.
And I wasn't trying to go back and forth. I'm just wondering because I don't know.
Yeah, it includes the district and district entities. I would say like individual people in the community are not district entities, like they're taxpayers in the district, but they can't go to him to represent them in something, so.
And then is part of the solicitor's duties, when he says things like overruled or you're out of order, is that something that is actually part of his responsibilities as like representation, or?
We're paying him to be here and do that, yes.
So you guys are paying him to make rulings? Like it
To
seems
give
like
to
judicial
do the legal
rulings to me.
guidance, yeah,
'cause
legal guidance, 'cause
it
he's
sounds
the
like
attorney.
that. So is that, so you guys are paying him to do that?
Yes.
Okay. So if somebody brings up a sunshine violation or something like that, he actually makes a ruling?
On our behalf, he guides us as to what that is, and rather than him saying it directly to me and then me saying it back to you guys, he has the authority from the board as a whole.
But is
to-
he ruling on the
There's no such thing as
objection?
ruling. You make an objection. We can choose to take an action as a board if we think that there's merit in that objection. But if we don't find merit in the objection, we're not going to change anything because one person objected. So if we would often defer to legal counsel as to whether there is a legal objection there or something that we need to take action on. And so when he advises us, we're following his advisement.
So when he does that, that's like advising you guys?
Yes.
It's not an actual ruling?
No more than anything that's done here can be a ruling.
Okay. Well, I didn't
Just
know
an
if people
action.
understood that because
Right.
I wasn't clear because it seems like a ruling. Like that's the representation to the public, I think, is that.
That's why I say at the beginning, it's the purpose, for the purposes here tonight, what he advises us is the final decision. There are, of course, other legal remedies that people can take, but for the purposes of that meeting at that night, that is, as he advises us, we support that.
Okay.
Thank you.
And he's paid by tax dollars?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So guys, I'd like to do that, my objection, and my legal objection will be pretty brief. The legal objection is this: you guys, you just got finished saying something that you said to us. It's on public record. People are hearing this. Mr. Perbola made an error one time at the end of a meeting and said he couldn't return emails because of against the Sunshine Law. That's why he doesn't return emails. Well, that's not true. It was like a half-truth. He can't email as a whole with everybody's name listed, but he can pull that individual out and talk to them. So you guys can't, through omission, lie to us. So he does, it's not his final decision. You are the elected officials. My objection is it's called maladministration. When you just got finished saying, on record, his word is the final being. It's not. If my representatives want to stand up and shut him up because they know he's wrong and they know it, if you keep teaching the younger school board members and you keep honing them in, thinking that he's mighty, he's not. You've made errors. He's made errors and you've went along with it. It's maladministration, friend or no friend, whether you vote yea or nay. If you don't stop the maladministration, you're part of that maladministration. So my legal objection
Attorney
is
Allard,
maladministration.
Okay. He has a maladministration legal objection?
No, it's not.
Thank you. Okay. Any other public comment?
Yeah, I just want to say that since Mr. Ross brought my name up, I just want to clarify. When that discussion took place, my point to Mr. Ross, we cannot have a discussion via all board members with emails. Those are comments among board members with the public. So I wasn't lying. I was giving the exact answer. We cannot have dialogue in a group email with public and all 9 board members. The second thing is, there was another issue brought up by Mr. Ross, that work sessions are different than board meetings versus they're public meetings, right, Mr. Solicitor? A public meeting is a public meeting.
They're public meetings.
Okay,
Yes.
so that was in error.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
There
And then-
is such a thing as a work session,
Right.
but we can't discuss district business in
Right,
those
so
types
the-
of work sessions.
the
Those
work-
can be, there is a Sunshine Law executive session thing that could be called a work session, but it's usually for more things like board trainings. We've had those before that we've announced here, that we had a board training on legal matters or things like that. So we can do that. There is those are 2 different things. This district, just a little bit of history, we used to have what they would call a work session and then a board meeting, but they were both held, they were both run the same way.
Same time.
They were, yeah, well, they're all public, yeah, that's not a thing. So if it's a public work session versus a public board meeting, but because we didn't necessarily operate as a board in the sense that we would have a meeting where we just talked about everything that was going to be put on the agenda, and then a meeting to then go over all the things that we just talked about in that meeting, we kind of use them both together. They are the same, they're all public, they have the same comment requirements in the sense that we use them, and so that's not an issue.
So if you guys don't mind, I'd like to have a point of order and a legal objection that what you just explained to the public was not accurate. I'd like to read it straight from I can read with specificity straight from the Sunshine Law. So I plan on doing that because what you just accidentally did, you just fluently went blah, 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 blah. But there is literally...
Please, if you have an objection, state it.
I'm getting ready to. There is literally...
There are their rules, you need to follow them.
So there is... Let me get my rules.
So
No, they're our rules.
Is this the board comment period?
If there was no more public comment, he says this is another
making
legal
an objection.
Right. So, and our rule is you state specifically what the legal objection is, and I'm waiting to hear that.
Do you guys have a copy of the rights and responsibilities of doing a legal objection? I do them so often, you should probably have a copy in front of you to make sure you're protecting me from anybody not doing it the right way. So the open meeting, so my legal objection is what you just expressed to the public would be inaccurate. An open meeting is official, in an open meeting, the definition is
official action and deliberations by a quorum of the members of an agency shall take place at a meeting open to the public unless it's closed with exceptions, which that is what we do.
right, that's the open meeting?
That is open meeting.
So then find where you're explaining what they call a work session. Read the work session.
I'm not sure where we're going. And
Hold
you
on,
don't
I'm real
have
happy to do this, because I
explain.
got it right here where it
I am
says certain working sessions.
Yes. read
So
it.
we may hold certain working sessions that are held in executive session that we would have to announce, and they are held for examining, analyzing, they're not open to the public. discussing and deliberating the various
Thank
accounts
you.
or records with respect to which such
Okay, so I'm
boards are
I'm
responsible.
allowed to define my violation. You understand it, I read the violation, now I'm gonna define it. These meetings right here, this meeting we had tonight was an open meeting. Simple, that's it, not an open public meeting.
And open work session,
It was an
because we
open-
are deliberating during those as well.
A work session the public cannot.
We hear
be
you.
attend- The public cannot.
overruled, right?
Let me
Oh, yeah.
finish talking, I'm
No.
not
No,
finished.
we hear
We're
your
done.
I'm not
objection.
finished.
Thank you, Chuck.
I'm not finished.
You're making argument. You don't you could do that in court. Go ahead, file something. You can do that in court. We're not in court here. Overruled.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there
Let's
any
move
other
on.
public comment? Any other board comment?
Motion to adjourn.
Before we do that, I'd like to have a moment of
Oh.
silence for Mr. Gramad, former board director. He might have even been a board president at some point. I don't know off the top of my head. He was not? Okay. But he certainly provided a lot to this community well outside his service to the school board. So we'll have a moment of silence for former director Gramad. With that, we had one motion to adjourn. Second. And second, meeting adjourned.